Two tools. Two tools. Two tools. No clue!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Two Tools No Clue podcast. I'm Anna,
And I'm Jaden.
and today on our minisode, which is not going to be a minisode because I was way too excited about it, we're going to learn about the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist.
My gosh, sounds like my cup of tea.
So, what do you remember about the Global Strategic Reserve in Quebec from what I told you in our last episode, which for listeners and viewers was last week. For you, it was about a month ago.
I remember that in Canada, they have a reserve so that they never run out
Mm-hmm.
and so that the prices stay stable.
Good job. Yeah, it's a good synopsis. So the majority of the information I'm about to share with you comes from two sources: a documentary series called Dirty Money: The Maple Syrup Heist, available to watch on Netflix,
I'm totally going to watch it after this.
and a YouTube video called The Great Maple Syrup Heist by the Casual Criminalist. All right, let's get into it. I'm so excited.
I am too.
So, as I said in the last episode, if you haven't listened to it yet, go check it out. Quebec has what is called a Global Strategic Reserve of maple syrup. This reserve was the subject of a heist that took place between 2011 and 2012, and this heist is the subject of today's episode.
Heck yeah.
But before we get into the heist, I need to tell you a little bit about the Global Reserve and the Federation. So,
The Federation
the Federation.
was a Star Wars.
Yes.
Sorry.
So, in order to make and sell bulk maple syrup in Quebec, you need to go through what's called the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers.
Wow, they don't fuck around.
And the Federation, as it sounds, is a little controversial because some people in the maple industry are for the system that the Federation has in place, while others would prefer a free market. The reason some would prefer a free market is that the Federation created an exclusive selling agency within Quebec and blocks producers from selling anywhere else.
Oh, that's
So,
a little greedy.
just from my understanding, this is off of my own dome. I kind of liken it to like how Monsanto has a monopoly on the soybean,
Yeah,
but like maple syrup in Quebec,
yeah.
they're
That's
very
interesting.
controlling about it. This is because, again, Quebec produces around 75 to 80% of the world's maple syrup. So, I mean, kind of
Yeah.
rightfully so.
Yeah, they're like, listen, this is how we're gonna do it. Get over it.
The way the Global Strategic Reserve works is the Federation of Maple Syrup Producers set a limit on how much maple syrup individual producers are allowed to sell in a season, and any excess is given to the reserve. This is in an effort to keep prices stable if and when the year's production isn't enough to go around, and also to ensure the world will always have a steady supply of 100% pure maple syrup. So, like
Such
you
a
said,
serious business.
it really
You know what I
is.
mean? They're like, we'll never fail you in the world. You will always have maple syrup. And then half the world is like, this maple syrup. You know what I mean?
Well, I didn't even know about maple sugar until last week, and I'm a New Englander.
I love maple syrup, but I feel like there's genuine countries out there that they're like, maple syrup, what?
Yeah. Well, you're missing out.
Yeah, you
If
are.
you haven't tried
Eat
maple
it.
syrup, you need to try some.
Delicious.
You can't die without trying maple syrup. Anyway. From what I understand, the producers are paid for their overflow, in quotations, overflow syrup.
Into the reserve.
Right. They get
Okay.
paid for their overflow syrup when the reserve distributes it, usually in dry years when production isn't the best.
But they don't get paid for it right away.
Not from what I understand.
Hmm.
It can take years for production to be paid in full because it's only when the
It's
year is
dry.
bad.
Yeah.
And
Interesting. Sounds like Social Security.
overflowing quotes, because if the Federation wasn't a thing, there would be no such thing as overflow. These individual sellers would be able to be selling all of their maple
all
syrup
the time.
all of the time. Well, yeah. As long as the year is good.
Yeah.
So, you can see how the Federation is helpful in some ways, but also hindering.
Yeah. It's just like, how are you ever gonna make, like, money?
Exactly. And the Dirty Money documentary goes into the Federation and, the rebels is what they're called, the people who are trying to
bootleggers.
they're trying to, outsmart the system
Yeah.
and work around it. That documentary is a lot more focused on that storyline,
Okay.
whereas the YouTube is more about the heist.
Okay.
Do you wanna guess how much a single barrel of maple syrup in this reserve is worth on average, keeping in mind there are 54 gallons of maple syrup per barrel?
Holy crap. $400.
A single barrel of maple syrup in the global reserve is worth about $1,600 on average. I saw numbers ranging from anywhere between 26 to 30 times the price of crude oil in the US.
Holy crap.
Important shit.
Canada does not mess around with their syrup, that's for sure.
So, let's get into the heist. On July 30th, 2012, inventory inspector, and these are all French names, so I apologize to our French-speaking listeners. Michel Guavreau is the inventory inspector, and he began his usual duties of counting the barrels in the St. Louis de Blanford warehouse. Sorry. Which was about 30 minutes away from the Federation's main warehouse in Laurierville.
Wow.
So the barrels were stacked upwards of 20 feet high, and part of his job was to climb the mountain of barrels to get an accurate count. Each barrel weighed around 600 pounds, so climbing them was perfectly safe. Or so he thought. Almost to the top, the inspector reached to climb onto the next barrel and was shocked when it tipped under his weight. He nearly fell, but was able to grab another barrel to save himself. He opened the suspiciously light barrel, which smelled like maple syrup, but was full of nothing. It was empty. He began to inspect other barrels in the vicinity, including ones he had just climbed up, and realized many of them were also empty.
Ooh.
He also realized many of the empty barrels had a ring of brown rust around the cap. At first, the Federation thought it must have been an inventory glitch, but 3 weeks later, they checked again, only to find more barrels had been tampered with. On August 24th, 2012, the Federation of Maple Syrup Producers reported a theft to the Provincial Police Corps. You say corpse? Do you pronounce the P?
No, I say
Corps? Cor? Do you pronounce the S?
I say corp.
Corp? So you do pronounce the P.
Yeah, I do pronounce the P, not the S.
Okay. I didn't know.
I don't know.
I figured I'd ask you.
I feel like
I
I'm
guess I
wrong.
could have looked it up, but so the police created a special team of around 250 officers to investigate this case.
Oh, crap.
Agents began the grueling work of determining which barrels had been emptied and which were still full. The reserve's main warehouse had a total storage capacity of 218,000 barrels. But luckily, the smaller St. Louis de Blanford warehouse could only hold 16,000 barrels.
Still a lot of
It's
barrels.
still a lot. Unfortunately, the situation became even more difficult when they realized some of the emptied barrels had been refilled with water, making it harder for them to determine which had been tampered with. They couldn't just bang on
How
them and
long
see if
was
they were
this
hollow.
happening for? Oh my gosh.
We'll get to that.
This guy probably
Well, a
is
year.
so
I already told
stupid.
you. It happened for a year.
Oh, okay.
So when the investigation started, there were no immediate suspects, so police met with 223 witnesses.
Like employees.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Avik Caron, again, I apologize for my pronunciation of these names. He was someone they looked into, mainly because his wife had a part share in the ownership of the St. Louis de Blanford warehouse. The Federation actually came to them asking if they could rent space to store their extra barrels.
Hmm.
Apparently, 2001 2011 was an incredible year for maple syrup producers in Quebec. So a ton of maple syrup was being given to the strategic reserve. And
I'd be pissed.
why?
You're not gonna get your money.
Oh, if you're a producer?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'll mention that later on.
I'd sue the shit out of them. American way. Come here, Canada.
So, before becoming involved in the warehouse in 2010, Avik was actually convicted for being involved in a scheme of insurance fraud.
Yeah, it's not looking good for you, Avik.
No. I don't know if it's Avik or Avik. It's Avik. Avik?
Avik. I'm fine with Avik.
Okay, we'll
We've
stick
already
with Avik.
committed to
Okay.
it. Sorry, Avik. That's your name now.
Avik was actually convicted of being involved in a scheme of insurance fraud,
Yikes.
allegedly pretending to be an insurance agent and faking the theft of a car. So this guy's got history.
That's fancy.
Due to the Federation's reputation for stifling the little guys, there was a thriving black market for maple syrup in Quebec. Black market basically just means that the producers aren't going through the appropriate channels.
Like
That the
selling it at stands and
Federation,
stuff.
yeah, that the Federation wants them to take to sell their maple syrup.
Okay.
So radical producers would ship their syrup in unmarked trucks overnight to exporters who would distribute it for them in order to avoid their sales being tracked by the Federation. These middlemen driving between the maple producers and the exporters are called barrel rollers.
Ooh. Oh my
And
gosh, I would want to be a barrel roller. That sounds like a badass job.
I bet you'd be good at it.
Like, I'm just driving these barrels.
You love to drive too.
Yeah.
The fun fact, barrel rollers are sometimes likened to rum runners during Prohibition in the U.S. Apparently, a few years earlier, there was a smaller maple syrup theft totaling around $100,000 that was investigated but never solved. Richard Valliere allegedly confessed to barrel rolling black market syrup during that investigation, but there was no evidence to convict him. He allegedly had been a barrel roller for the past 10 years. So, needless to say, he was a suspect.
Yeah. He's like, I just rolled it. I didn't steal it.
Evidence found at the scene included fingerprints, footprints, and scratches on the barrels. And the scratches were especially noticeable because the reserve uses special forklifts that don't leave marks like the ones found along the sides of the barrels. The special forklifts actually grip the barrels from the top, so they wouldn't leave marks on the side.
Okay.
These marks were especially helpful in determining which barrels had been tampered with.
I bet they were so happy they figured that out.
Oh, yeah. Police were able to locate the establishment from which the unknown forklift that left the marks was rented from because the name of one of the renters matched a suspect they were looking into.
Oh, yeah.
Sebastian Jutras. Sorry for the
Bad
pronunciation.
boy.
Sebastian confessed to repeatedly being a driver, but claimed he didn't know the syrup was stolen and agreed to testify against the others. Apparently, he was also the one who connected Avik Caron and Richard Valliere to begin with. Avik had allegedly asked if Sebastian knew of anyone who could successfully sell maple syrup on the black market, and Sebastian knew of Richard's long history of barrel rolling. So in June 2011, there was supposedly a meeting between Avik, Sebastian, and Richard at the Madrid truck stop in Quebec. There, it was decided that Avik would steal the maple syrup and Richard would transport and sell it on the black market. It was at this meeting that they officially decided to go forward with their plan.
All right, fellas.
So here's how it went down. Avik and Richard rented storage space in the same St. Louis de Blanford warehouse the Federation was using for their overflow barrels. Nobody gave a second glance when they showed up because they thought they were going to their own space. And nobody noticed when they walked right past their rental space into the storage of the Federation. For some reason, the small warehouse didn't have security cameras or alarms, just a couple of security guys.
And they were like, hey, fellas.
Crazy when one barrel of maple syrup is worth $1,600.
They were stacked 20 feet high. So there's a lot in there.
What was it, 16,000
Yeah.
barrels there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Rouillard, the Federation's deputy director, said, quote, "At that time, nobody could imagine that an organization of thieves would have the ability to take 6 million pounds of maple syrup," end quote. So they really didn't think there was any need for there to
My
be
God. Yeah.
security other than these couple of guys walking the premises.
Wow.
They allegedly tipped the barrels onto their sides and rolled them into their own storage space where a truck was waiting to be loaded. The stolen maple syrup was then brought to Richard's father's sugar shack, where the syrup was transferred into different containers to be sold to Sebastian's employer, Etienne St. Pierre, an international exporter who sold to the US, Germany, and Japan.
Wow.
Allegedly, they would immediately take the empty Federation barrels down to a pond on the property to fill them with water, then transport them back to the warehouse. Etienne St. Pierre would rebrand the maple syrup to say it was from New Brunswick, which doesn't have strict syrup regulations, and kept the quantities low to avoid detection. They got away with this for a whole year.
Oh my God.
Apparently, there was one incident where a security guard caught them rolling barrels away from the Federation storage into their own space, and the guard reported them to his supervisor, but the supervisor was apparently already being paid off by these guys.
That's
So,
amazing.
business just continued as usual.
That's incredible.
Eventually, after successfully returning the barrels and not getting caught multiple times like many long-term criminals, they got sloppy. They decided that refilling the barrels with water was pointless and began returning the barrels completely empty, thinking the odds of an inspector touching those specific barrels and realizing they were light were low. But if you're stealing every barrel's worth,
Fellas, that's where you
eventually...
messed up. Fill it with water.
Ay. So, Avik
I was
and
proud of them.
Richard, however, appeared to become more stressed and paranoid about their dealings as time went on, with one text explaining that the Federation was on their way to do their annual inventory. One said that a guy from the Federation had seen their truck, and another said, quote, "We have to make the rust circles disappear, okay?" And this brings us back to the inventory inspector, Michel Guavreau, and his near-death incident on top of the stack of barrels, leading to the initial discovery. At the end of the day, 9,561 barrels had been stolen over the span of a year. That's 540,000 gallons of maple syrup. Or...
Yeah, how much money?
12.5% of the Federation's total reserve.
How many barrels was it?
9,561. So do you want to guess how much all of those barrels were worth in total? Don't do the math.
I'm not
just
doing
guess.
it yet. It's such a big number. Like $1 million.
$18 million.
Oh my God.
Which is still the biggest theft in
Holy
Quebec
crap.
to this day. And just a fun fact, the biggest heist in the US was $18.9 million.
Wow.
Which is right on track with that one. And the biggest heist in the world was more than $100 million.
Wow.
But that was like jewelry, not maple syrup.
Maple syrup, though. Oh my God. I think that's the most impressive one.
Yeah. Because of what
Okay.
it is.
Listen, the one that happened at the Louvre recently
Oh, yeah.
was
Impressive.
hilarious.
And the guy was hot.
Yeah. Everyone's like, leave him alone.
He's so
He's
good-looking."
sexy.
Let him have the jewels. Police interviewed tenants, employees, and other owners of the warehouse and were able to get some of the people that the thieves implicated to talk. They were able to obtain 40 search warrants of homes and vehicles from these interviews. With the warrants, they found shoeboxes full of cash, not incriminating at all. Everyone has shoeboxes full of cash lying around in their
wish.
house. and the burner phones with the incriminating text messages I mentioned earlier. At Richard's father's shack, they found containers of stolen maple syrup that had yet to be sold to St. Pierre for
Oh,
distribution.
no.
So that kind of like sealed the deal. In December 2012, Avik, Richard, and Richard's father were arrested, soon followed by Sebastian, St. Pierre, and multiple accomplices. 26 people in total.
All right. We're having some technical issues.
With our camera.
2 tools, no clue, but all
This
right, Anna.
episode comes out in May, but it is currently February and there's a snowstorm, so our internet isn't the best. So, if for our viewers, if it just went out on you, we apologize. But hopefully the audio is okay. So, on to the trial. Fun fact. We're laughing because we've done this 3 times already. Fun fact, the trial didn't start until 2017. So, just a reminder, they were caught in 2012. So that's 5 years later. Richard pled not guilty to 4 charges, including trafficking and fraud, stating he wanted no part of the scheme to begin with.
Innocent bystander.
Yeah, he had nothing to do with it. He claimed Avik refused to let him out of the arrangement and said he feared for his family's safety.
Wow.
Avik allegedly told Richard, quote, "I know where you live," end quote, and that if he spoke out, he would get shot in the head.
Oh, wow.
Avik was the last to testify, and his strategy was to downplay his involvement. He claimed the Montreal Mafia was involved, supplying drivers and equipment, but he eventually backed down from that claim.
Is that real?
That the
Sorry.
Mafia were involved, or that he claimed that they were involved?
That there's a Canadian mafia.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Guess I'm taking you more seriously
The
now,
Montreal
Canada.
Mafia, to be specific.
Yikes.
Eventually, his lawyers convinced him to plead guilty in hopes of a lighter sentence of house arrest or probation. So on trial, Sebastian Jutras ended up testifying against Avik Caron, Richard Valliere, and Etienne St. Pierre, his own employer.
Wow.
Like he said he would. He
Yeah.
told them he would testify against them all. Etienne St. Pierre was a totally legitimate exporter, but moving and selling bulk maple syrup produced in Quebec without going through the Federation was and is illegal. He claimed he was unaware that the maple syrup had been stolen, much like Sebastian. So he's basically like, I thought it was coming from New Brunswick.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
The jury found all 3 men guilty. Avik Caron received a 5-year jail sentence and a $1.2 million fine.
Wow.
Apparently, he was pissed because he thought he was just going to get house arrest or probation, like his lawyer said.
Bro, you were an accomplice for a fucking $18 million heist. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, he demanded to change his plea to not guilty, saying his lawyers misled him. His request was obviously not granted.
Yeah, you already confessed, buddy.
Etienne St. Pierre received 2 years of home imprisonment. Avik is jealous. Followed by 3 years of probation and a $1.3 million fine to be paid within 15 years. And lastly, Richard Valliere got the brunt of the punishment. The barrel roller received 8 years in jail and a $1.8 million fine just for breaking the Federation's rules. He was also required to pay back what the stolen maple syrup was worth, which was nearly $10 million.
Wow.
So I guess they were like,
Get what you
18,
get.
whatever.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's today's. I'm not sure how that works out.
I feel like they just tried to split it up between all of them.
Oh, maybe. That makes sense. So just to make matters worse, his jail time would be increased by 6 years if he couldn't make the $10 million payment in
God.
10 years.
What? How's he gonna do that when he's in jail for 8?
So basically, he's going to jail
Yeah,
for
a while.
14 years.
Yeah. I would be like, I'm not paying. Just send me to 4 for 14.
Yeah. As for the others, Sebastian Jutras got only 8 months in prison for his testimonies. Richard's father received 2 years of home imprisonment, followed by 3 years of probation, as well as a $9,840 fine to be paid in 1 year, punishable by 6 months of jail time if he
Wow.
didn't make that payment. None of the other accomplices were convicted. So, today, in 2022, Richard Valliere was granted day parole. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's a conditional release in Canada that allows an offender to go out into the community during the day and return to the correctional facility at night. So he was granted his day parole after serving 4 years of his 8-year sentence.
That's pretty cool.
Since then, he's allegedly been living under supervision and is still required to comply with strict conditions. There's no news about whether or not he's been able to pay off his $10 million fine. There's no information about where Avik Caron is today. We can assume he served his 5 years in jail, especially since he was granted time served while he waited for his trial.
Yeah.
And it was basically 5
5
years in the
yeah.
making. He does, however, have his own IMDb page for his appearance, in quotes, in the Dirty Money documentary.
That's hilarious.
And all we know about Etienne St. Pierre is he served his house arrest sentence and is now free living in Kedgwick, New Brunswick.
Wow. Good for him.
So,
What a story.
I know, right? One impactful quote that I liked from the documentary was, quote, "Here in Quebec, drugs are discriminalized, but they have criminalized maple syrup. Which is more dangerous for people?" End quote.
Interesting.
There is also apparently a TV series called The Sticky on Amazon Prime that dramatizes the events of the Great Maple Syrup
Oh my gosh,
Heist.
what? We have to
Yeah,
watch
I didn't
that,
watch any
Anna.
of it, so we have to watch it together.
Heck yeah, that's
It
what we're
looks
gonna
really
do.
good. And I'll put the link to that in the show notes if anyone else is
Yeah,
interested in
that
giving
sounds
that a
funny.
watch. It apparently got 80% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow. All right. I'm here for it.
And that is the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist.
I know you're excited about that story, and now I understand why.
Yes.
Because that was incredible.
And like I said in the maple syrup episode last week, never in a million years did I think I would get to do a true crime episode on our homesteading podcast.
About maple syrup,
Yeah.
of all things.
So cool.
That was a great one. A
Yeah.
great find. I still
Thank
can't
you.
get over the amount of maple syrup that Canada's hoarding. Like, what
I
are you
know,
doing, you
yeah.
weirdos? Like, maybe you wouldn't get stolen if you weren't hoarding so much maple syrup.
Yeah.
I'm with the barrel rollers on this one. But yeah, thank you for that very good story.
You're welcome. And as always, we'll end it on a Farmer's Almanac. So, today should be, if I got my dates correct, Thursday, May 14th. And today is Ascension Thursday. Whoop, whoop.
What's that mean, Anna?
It's 40 days after Easter, and apparently Jesus ascended to heaven today.
Oh, well, good for you, Jesus. Glad you got there.
Yeah.
safe.
40 days later. Anyway, there's a conjunction of the moon and Mars as well today. And Mercury is in super conjunction.
Super.
Which means it's on the opposite side of the sun from the earth. And today is the best day to cut hay, destroy pests and weeds, and wash your windows.
Get out there and wash your windows.
Wash those windows squeaky clean.
And then get your hay.
And then follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Two Tools No Clue Podcast.
Or on TikTok at Two Tools No Clue. You can also subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/Two Tools No Clue. And then go ahead and email us all your funny stories, your suggestions, really anything.
Comments, critiques.
Yeah. Fact checks, because you know how we are. We're just two tools. We have no clue. So, clue us in at Two Tools No Clue Podcast at gmail.com.
Heck yeah.
Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for listening.
We'll talk to you next week, guys.
Wash your windows.
Catch you, hey. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Two tools. Two tools. Two tools. No!